Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode we're going to do a Heel Heat Top 10. The topic of this Top 10, Top 10 Mistakes AEW, All Elite Wrestling, Must Avoid. Now we're going to go through history and basically talk about mistakes that other companies, other wrestling promotions have made, and how AEW could avoid those, and what they should avoid. At the time of this recording, they've had 3 shows, Double or Nothing, Fyter Fest, and Fight for the Fallen. And today, the day I'm recording this, it was announced the official start date, October 2nd, 2019, for the TV show on TNT. So, kind of was something I've been toying around with, making this list, so something that kind of felt apropos today with what they have, basically what they've announced. With all that being said, let's jump right into it. Number 10, expanding on their brand too fast. Now, we all know there is a cult following, there is a rather sizable following. We know that by how quickly the tickets sell out anytime they go on sale. We know that by how many people are watching Being the Elite and everything these guys do and how many t-shirts they sell and all of that good stuff. The issue is, and it's something that's plagued other companies, ECW, Mid-South Wrestling, Jim Crockett Promotions. You can be that big and still try to expand your product too fast. And what I mean by that is, I know they're going to be on TNT, on a national syndicated program. But as of right now, they're still kind of unproven. Yes, you could sell out a 10,000 seat arena, 15,000 seat arena when you've only ran 3 shows. When you get to the weekly grinding, are 10,000 people going to show up every week? Are 15,000 people going to show up every week? They need to focus on areas where they have a big fan base. Obviously, Chicago is a big fan base for them. Florida, because of where they're based out of Jacksonville, they have a built-in fan base. So if they run Daily Plaza, probably going to be free to run that place, or just cost them what it costs to run the building, not have to, rent it or anything. So they need to kind of look at that. Stick with places that have a high concentration of people and a high concentration of fans of the product. And I think that'll help. But however, again, like I said, can they run 10,000 seats every week? I don't know. So far, there have only been 2 companies that really had that model, WWE and WCW, and were kind of successful with it. So we'll just have to see. We'll see if they can juggle it, and if, like I'm saying, if they try to fill 20,000 seat arenas every week, if they try to fill a 100,000 seat football stadium right away, I really don't think they can do that, but they can get there. It's just that they need to take the steps to get there. Now, our number 9. This is something that, especially now, coming off the heels of the Raw reunion show and a couple other things, they need to not rely so much on the past. In other words, yes, it's fun to see The Undertaker come out. It's fun to see Shawn Michaels every now and again. It's fun to see Bret Hart, DDP, all of your legends, all of the greats of the past. It is fun to see them. There's a nostalgia and a real want to see that. However, trouncing them out every 5-6 months, every couple months, putting them on pay-per-views like Goldberg versus Undertaker, Triple H and Shawn Michaels versus Kane and Undertaker for good examples. You're kind of undermining the talent that you have by saying, hey, look, here's our star. We got this star. Here's a guy you want to see back. while your talent that's there that you should be building up is taking a back seat. Yeah, again, it is fun to see them every now and again, but what the WWE is doing now is using them way too often, and I think that's a thing that they need to dial back. I know there's some legends that have already been involved in AEW, Tully Blanchard for one, Bret Hart, Diamond Dallas Page. Maybe they dial it back a little bit. Hopefully, it's something they can do, they'll look at, and they'll actually consider as something of a mistake that WWE is making right now. Now, our number 8. This one's going to be rather tough because of who's actually running the show. They need to not let the inmates run the asylum. And what I mean by this is we've seen in companies like TNA, WCW, where guys that were wrestling on the show had too much power and let it go to their head. Now, knowing what we know about AEW, we know that the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes, and Kenny Omega are all in prominent roles of power as vice presidents. So they're already kind of behind the 8 ball on this one. Anytime the Young Bucks win a tag team championship, it's going to look like, oh, they only won because they're running the company, or Cody Rhodes wins the world title, or Kenny Omega wins the world title. They have to toe that line where, yes, they are probably 4 of the biggest stars in the company, but they also have to toe the line where they can't be the only big stars in the company. Something like Hulk Hogan's creative control, or Jeff Jarrett continually pushing himself as the main person on TNA. While he may have been one of the best wrestlers they had, which there's no denying he was, he overexposed himself a bit, and the product kind of suffered for it. So they got to look at things like that. Not letting wrestlers tell them what they're going to do. Not having a situation where to get a big free agent, they put creative control into their contract. So just some things that they need to look at and kind of be aware of, I guess. Now, coming off of that, number 7, not pushing people that get over organically. Now, the biggest example I could think of for this is Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder wasn't doing much on WWE television, went out and did Z True Hollywood Stories, or his YouTube show, and made a name for himself. The fans really got behind him. And instead of the natural thing going, hey, let's give this guy a push, or something like Rusev Day, where everybody got behind Rusev Day, the WWE kind of shut that down because that's not what they had in their plans. They need to be smart enough to go, okay, maybe a guy like, just saying, Kip Sabian, for instance. He may not be a guy that's in their world championship picture right now. However, if he starts to gain a huge following and people are going crazy for Kip Sabian, they need to adjust on the fly and go, hey, we need to bring this guy up to where the fans want him to be. I mean, it's the kind of giving your fans what they want. And I understand it's kind of hard, especially if you got long-term booking going on. But it's in one of those things that they need to learn and adjust with it. I mean, if WCW never let DDP get over organically, they wouldn't have had one of their biggest stars. WWE with Steve Austin, arguably the biggest star in pro wrestling. Vince McMahon only seen him as a good hand when he came in. Funny that I say that based on, what we've seen. But anyway, I digress. They need to let guys, if someone isn't who you had planned and they're getting over organically, reward them for it. Do not punish them for that. Let them do it. If Peter Avalon and Leva Bates are getting the best reactions and selling the most t-shirts, push them into the main event. It's obvious that that's what the fans want to see. Just one of those things that's a pet peeve of mine that the WWE seems to be the biggest culprit on, is not rewarding people who get over outside of their ideas. Now, our number 6, pushing someone too long, aka Roman Reigns and John Cena. And to an extent, Hulk Hogan in the late 80s, early 90s. WWE has long had this issue where they get a star and they wear him out to the point where the fans don't want to see him anymore. It was obvious before Roman's cancer announcement that the fans did not want him to be the main guy. They warmed up a bit to him. He's been humanized now. Some time away has made the heart grow fonder. Same with John Cena. But ramming someone down the fans' throat like John Cena for 10 years plus, like Roman Reigns for 5 years plus, Hulk Hogan, famously WrestleMania 9, beating Yokozuna when it obviously should have been a time for Yokozuna or Bret Hart to have that shine. Going on and pushing guys well past their expiration date. What you want to do, ultimately, is a wrestler peaks and then they start to come down. You want to get them, well, they're still close to the top, but haven't gone all the way down in fandom. In other words, Cena hits a zenith, starts coming down a bit, boom. You replace him with CM Punk or whoever was there at the time. And then you build Cena, you let Cena kind of go into the background. You can always build him back up and bring him back in to the main event picture. You just got to give the fans a little bit of a respite. And that's something I think the WWE really has messed up on over the years. Now, number 5, not being too niche of a product. And what I mean by that is, if you look at something like ECW, which was considered too violent, although it did offer different things, you got people like, or other shows like Ring of Honor, which caters to a hardcore, not so much a hardcore wrestling audience, but a hardcore audience that wants to see a work rate, a high work rate, wants to see pure wrestling, I guess is what you would call it, or other companies like CZW that are focused on the deathmatch style. Yes, all of these are extremely popular. ECW is one of the most popular promotions. It's why you still hear those letters chanted. But go back in time. They weren't filling out 10,000 seat arenas. They went bankrupt. They didn't make enough money to keep going and going. They were living day by day. Ring of Honor, if they weren't with Sinclair Broadcasting, would have shut down a decade ago. So you got to kind of take with a grain of salt and not just, book for the hardcore fans, people like myself, and obviously you, if you're watching this video, if you're watching a video on YouTube about wrestling, obviously you're a hardcore fan. So for us, we're going to watch. We're going to watch bad or good for whatever it is because we enjoy it. They do need to mix in and grab some of the casual fans, the lapsed fans, the fans that stopped watching, and bring them back into the show and build new fans. And that's what they got to kind of toe the line. Do you give us the 45-minute epic Kenny Omega match? Yeah, they're great every now and then. But is that going to make the guy that tuned in because he's seen the advertisement on the Bulls game on Monday want to keep watching? I don't know. It's one of those things they're going to have to figure out. Now, our number 4, I hate to sound like I'm bagging on the WWE, but a lot of their issues that they have, this is why AEW should be a strong competitor, is they should do what the WWE is not doing. And one of the things that WWE is doing is scripting promos. And everybody does it. Everybody hates it. I'm sure there are some wrestlers that need the scripted promos, that work better with the scripted promos, and it helps them immensely. But overall, it comes off as everybody sounds the same. Everybody has the same delivery. Everybody has the same impact. It comes off too vanilla. And it's blatantly obvious when you have a show like the Raw Reunion and you allow someone like Steve Austin to talk, or even John Cena to talk, and you can see that they have a different vibe to them, that they have their own voice. It becomes obvious who's scripted and who's not. A big prime example is Roman Reigns. I think the scripting has hurt him more than it's helped him. I think if you let Roman Reigns be Roman Reigns, he would be exactly what the WWE wants him to be, and that's a huge megastar. I mean, look at the guy. He looks amazing. He looks like a Greek god. He's built. He's a handsome man. I'm not afraid to say that. He's got a great physique. He's got a great lineage. He's serviceable in the ring. He might not be Will Ospreay or Kazuchika Okada, but he's not going to give you a bad match either. He's good. I hate to say this because it sounds bad, but he's good. He's a quality wrestler. He's not the greatest in-ring wrestler, but he's more than sufficient to be a top-tier talent. And if you watch interviews with Roman Reigns when he's not scripted, he has a lot of natural charisma. When they give him the script, he sounds wooden. So it's one of those things that they need to look at. You know, not everybody is going to be okay running without a script, but for the most part, let the guys be who they are. Let them get over with what they are. You got a lot of interesting talent on your show. Sonny Kiss, Darby Allin, Joey Janela, Hangman Page, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega. They're all different. They're not the same. So let them get over being who they are and appeal to a fan base that's going to react to them. Now, our number 3. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm bagging on WWE because I'm really not trying to. I'm just pointing out ways that AEW pitfalls that they must avoid. And number 3 is overexposure. It's something we all complain about, the fatigue of having 1, maybe 2 specials or pay-per-views a month, having the 2 weekly shows in Raw and SmackDown, then you got NXT, NXT UK, you got 205 Live, you got house shows, you got everything. In a given week, you got 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, another hour for 205 Live, hour for NXT UK, hour for NXT proper. So that's 8 hours right there. That's a shift at most people's jobs, and that's not including the months or the weeks that they have pay-per-views that run 4 to 5 hours, or in the case of WrestleMania, 7 hours. And that's, again, not including specials and other stuff that they put on the network. There comes a point when you're at your saturation point. Too much of a good thing is just as bad as not enough. I like ice cream, obviously. Look at my physique. I couldn't eat ice cream every meal for the rest of my life because I would get sick of it. I couldn't eat steak every meal for the rest of my life. I couldn't eat hamburgers, tacos, anything you enjoy. You gotta like in moderation. Just like I couldn't watch the same movie over and over and over again. I can watch the movies a lot of times, but I couldn't watch it every day, every night, and kind of where WWE has an issue, that there's so much content being put out there, it's overwhelming to watch it all. When you include other wrestling shows, Impact, MLW, Ring of Honor, New Japan, Women of Wrestling, all these shows can be seen on television, and that's just, except for MLW, that's just what you have on TV. And then if you go on the internet, you can reach out to so much more. They need to find a fine line where they're not only not overexposing their own product, but not overexposing the wrestlers within their product. If we see Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega 5 times in the first 5 weeks of the show, it's not special anymore. If we see Joey Janela and Jimmy Havoc wrestle every week, or be in month-long feuds where they wrestle 3 times a month, it's not special anymore. It kind of takes away from that. And they need to find a balance where they can make things special, make it so something like Jon Moxley versus Cody Rhodes is something you're clamoring for, that you're not getting every week. I don't know how you do it with a weekly wrestling program other than to have guys be off every other week, or, basically saying with a 2-hour show, you don't have to have every member of your roster on the show. I remember as a kid watching WWE and at the time Jim Crockett Promotions, you wouldn't see Hulk Hogan every week. You wouldn't see Roddy Piper every week. You wouldn't see Randy Savage, Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, Dusty Rhodes. You might see highlights or clips from weeks before, but they didn't wrestle every week. So when Ric Flair would wrestle on Jim Crockett on Worldwide Wrestling, it felt special. When Hulk Hogan would wrestle, even if it was wrestling Iron Mike Sharp, it felt special because you got to see something you didn't see often. And that's kind of something that I think that AEW could do to bring that back to wrestling, to make the matches, the dream matches, special again, make them something that you don't get spoon-fed every week. Kind of I don't know, maybe I'm speaking of an era that's bygone and it's never going to come back, but that's something I think that they would be best served to try and replicate. Now, our number 2, pushing any WWE castoff. TNA/Impact Wrestling is the main culprit in this. Every company's done it, and I understand. WWE is the biggest platform. Guys like Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho are bona fide stars, former WWE champions. They have name brand recognition. Where you run into problems is like TNA did, whenever someone like Christian, Kurt Angle, who were great acquisitions, the Dudley Boys, would come in, they would get pushed right to the front of TNA. They'd automatically be in the main event picture, automatically making your homegrown talent look not as important. AEW, I think, is doing a good spot with putting Hangman Page and Chris Jericho for their first championship, because you have basically a homegrown guy and a well-known, worldwide known star wrestling there, so you get the Jericho fans that may not be familiar with AEW tuning in, maybe may make a fan of Hangman Page. The problem is when you get companies like TNA, like I keep mentioning, where they bring in guys like Rhino, who's a great wrestler, or Tyson Tomko, who was a really good wrestler with a really good look, and they would push these guys right into the main event. And you had guys like Christopher Daniels, Low-Key, Alex Shelley, AJ Styles, Beer Money, Kazarian. You had so much talent on that show that was kept getting pushed back and further into the back burner, to the point where the whole show, the main event scene, was nothing but WWE Castoffs. And it kind of made it feel like WWE Light, which is what AEW needs to avoid. Now, before we get into our number 1, we do a little something here on our top 10s called the best of the rest. Basically stuff that was considered for the list but didn't quite make it. First up, breaking the wall, or breaking the fourth wall too often. Hi, Cole Cabana. WCW and TNA are the main culprits in this. WWE has done it from time to time. ECW did it from a lot of times, especially with Shane Douglas. But anytime like someone goes, I'm going to speak to you as Joe, not as Roman Reigns, or kind of blurs that interaction and talks about how they were booked and how the Office screwed them for a title, really talking about screw jobs and how wrestling's not real and it's a show, takes away. Because what you want to do as a wrestling fan, as shocking and as crazy as that is the first time you hear it, as a wrestling fan, you want to suspend disbelief and you want to take the show and watch the show and not think about it being fake, not think about the fact that I don't want to hear, I don't care about the backstage politics while I'm watching the show. Is it an interesting story when I read one of your books 5 years down the road? Yeah, it's great. It's an interesting story. Am I probably going to look at it on the dirt sheets or Twitter or Reddit when it pops up? Most likely. But while I'm watching the show, I don't need to know that John Cena in the ring is different than John Cena the person. For that 2 hours, that has to be the same person. The world that they live in, the AEW universe, needs to be a universe just like as if you're watching Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead. That universe, while they're on that show, is a universe they're in. In other words, you're not going to see Andrew Lincoln on The Walking Dead go, hey, this isn't Rick Grimes talking to you, this is Andrew Lincoln. No, because we're wanting to believe that where Andrew Lincoln is Rick Grimes, basically. And that's kind of, for every cool instance and every little fun shout out and playing off of backstage promos, there's 100 cringeworthy examples as well. Now, next up on our best of the rest, trying too hard for mainstream attention. Both WCW and WWE were very guilty of this. When you bring in C and D level celebrities, now don't get me wrong, bringing in somebody like Dennis Rodman or Mike Tyson or whoever the big actors of the time may be, or pop stars of the time, I mean, it would be a major coup for WWE to have Rick Grimes, like I just said, Andrew Lincoln on their show. It would bring a lot of interest. It would bring a lot of interest if they got Brad Pitt to come on. It would bring a lot of interest if LeBron James was there. You know, major stars. Bringing in every third-rate person to be a co-host or to do a special like WCW did with the Howard Stern's Whack Pack. Yeah, for people who watch Howard Stern, that's great. For most of the fans watching the show, they had no clue who they were. Seeing guys, you know, like the guys from Saturday Night Live, yeah, cool. I like them. I think they're funny guys. A lot of the crowd doesn't watch Saturday Night Live. It's not as popular as it once was. So, bringing in celebrities just for celebrity's sake, you got to kind of dial it back and get what you wish for. For every Stephen Amell appearance, you don't want to have the Machine Gun Kelly appearance where the fans just don't care. You're not bringing his fans over and he's not helping. It just makes the product look bad. Now, before I get into our number one, if you think I left something off the list, if you think I put something too high, left something too low, let me know what you think. Put it right down here in the comments. Make sure you hit the like and share button. It helps out immensely, especially with the way YouTube promotes shows now. For a show that's small like mine, if it's not organically promoted, it's not getting promoted. So you liking and sharing and commenting on this really helps me out to get my show out there. I'm not monetized right now. I'm not making any money off of this. I do this just because I enjoy doing it. And I enjoy the interactions I get. I enjoy what people say to me on these shows. So please, again, hit the like and share. If you have a criticism, put the criticism down there. I read every comment that's on every one of these, bad, good, or indifferent. And I know, inevitably, there's always going to be the comments, look at this fat guy in his mom's basement, or look at all those gray hairs in the beard. He looks like he's 100 years old. I know, it happens. But, hey, I take them all with a grain of salt. Just help a brother out. And make sure you hit subscribe if you didn't, and hit ding that bell so you get all the things, you know, all the stuff all the YouTubers tell you. Now, our number one mistake that AEW needs to avoid. And this one, I can't say it any clearer. Never, ever, in a million years, if he's the last person on the earth, hire Vince Russo. Vince Russo was a major cog in the Attitude Era 20 years ago. His fame and all credit is due. He did come up with some of the things that are some of the most popular and most interesting things that ever happened on WWE television. Vince Russo also had to put these thoughts through the filter McMahon. When he was taken from that filter and he went to WCW, we got stuff like Judy Bagwell on the pole. We got Swerve for Swerve's sake. We got Vince Russo World Champion. David Arquette World Champion, which I'm not as mad about as most people. I actually thought it was kind of alright, to be honest with you. We got reboots. We got, a lot of the issues that I brought up here. Pushing Castoffs like they did in WCW and TNA when he was there. Just a lot of stuff. Letting the inmates tell him what to do. I mean, just everything. There was so much that Vince Russo did wrong that even his contributions have now been watered down. It's almost like saying, for a sports analogy, you have a guy that comes out and breaks the home run record one year and then hits 3 or 4 home runs every year after that. That one year was the anomaly. The 3 to 4 home runs the rest of his career is how his career is. That's the player he is. He had one great year, and then the rest was what he is. It's who they made him. But, that's my opinion on it. I think they should just leave him alone, leave him back in the Attitude Era where he belongs. But that's my opinion on the top 10 things AEW has to avoid. Let me know what you think. Again, like, comment, share, all that great stuff. Subscribe. And thank you for watching. If you have watched, I definitely appreciate it. My name is George Coles, and it's been another Heel Heat Top 10.